was in Jacksonville. I get a phone call and I find out that my wife was crossing the street and she got hit by a car. Yeah. And I got that phone call that she got hit by a car. She's in the hospital. And it was in that moment, I was not that everything, like I was okay, but nothing else mattered. Like everything else was like, just didn't matter. I got on the next flight home. As soon as I got there, got my car, went to the hospital. I haven't been in a hospital at that point in forever. I haven't, been around her family in forever, but it was instantly I was able to do that because nothing else mattered but her, and that she was okay and that I was there for her, and this happened a few months ago. This happened in November, when Flavor Fest was in November. And yeah, I mean, since then it's been a real turnaround. Like when I was going through my season, my wife was the one driving everywhere, taking everybody to appointments, just taking care of all the errands, because I couldn't. After she got into her accident, it was completely turned around. I'm doing, because I needed to be there, and I needed to step up, and that's all that mattered, at that point. So, and it's all I found my strength in God, every single day, every single moment, and even still now.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jay Harrington. This is Holy Culture Artist Spotlight. With me today is Purelyricz. Pure, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a privilege and an honor. Thank you.
I am usually my phrase is I'm excited. I'm always excited about everything, but today I am grateful to have you on here because this is not just your average artist spotlight. This is a very special artist spotlight because we are talking about men's health this month, and specifically mental health, physical health, all the things that have to do with the providers that take care of us so well. So, but before we get started, for people that are not familiar with who you are, tell us who Purelyricz is.
Oh, yeah. Well, my name is Steve. Purelyricz is my stage name. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I'm a Christian hip hop artist, as well as an engineer and producer. And I've been doing music for roughly 27 years. But I actually started getting into the Christian scene and doing it for the Lord for the past, I want to say, 5 to 6 years, starting in 2019.
Okay, wow, that's fairly recent. I was looking at your Spotify before we came in here just to get a rough idea of how long you've been. 27 years, holy smokes! So you were doing secular music before that.
Right, yes. Yeah, I was doing secular music
And
before.
producing on the end, or also like singing and rapping and everything.
Yeah, so it was just rapping for the beginning, and then I started producing and engineering in 2019. So around the same time I started making music for the Lord is when I started producing and engineering.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So your face should be familiar to those who were into the Unleashed podcast with Omega Sparks. It was a short mini series. If you guys have not checked it out, go ahead and go to our YouTube page, go to the Unleashed podcast playlist. You will not regret it. It was amazing. But you were a special guest of his in one of the episodes, and I was completely blown away by your testimony. So tell us a little bit of where Jesus found you.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I feel like I hear this story sometimes where I always knew of God, I knew about Jesus, but I never had a relationship with Jesus. So I grew up in a household where it was split. So I had on one half, which was my mother. She was a Jehovah's Witness, and we were living with her parents, my grandparents, and they were Catholic. So I'm kind of like in the middle, trying to figure myself out and trying to figure things out, and I'm getting kind of pulled in both directions. So both from both ends of the spectrum. I did hear the about Jesus. I did learn things about him, but there were two, I guess, conflicting ideas of who he actually was, his deity, and things like that. And I was really navigating that all through my childhood, and I really didn't come to have a real relationship and actually give my life over to him until I want to say 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, is when I really said, I need to really have a relationship with Christ, and because whatever it was I was looking for or doing just wasn't satisfying, it wasn't working, and and it kind of like snowballed from there. Then 2 or 3 years later, I started making music again because I stopped for a little while, and yeah, it just all started, from there, pretty much.
Wow, yeah. So, if you don't have a Jehovah's Witness in your life, those guys, I kind of wish we had the same disciplines that Jehovah's Witnesses have, because they know their version of the Bible very well, and they're very committed to it. But yeah, it's something else to have. My aunt is a Jehovah's Witness, so I can totally relate.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but part of your testimony was God breaking a stronghold for you.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to say it was November 2019. I had given my life to Christ, but I was still very new in my Christian walk. Still trying to build that relationship, build a prayer life, things like that. So in November 2019, uh, I was actually on my way to work. Uh, One night. It was in I was doing a midnight shift. I worked for the New York City Department of Sanitation, and I was going on a midnight shift. And while I was driving into work, something came over me. Something just kind of engulfed me. I would say, of telling me, or having this feeling that something very bad was going to happen. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have any kind of idea beyond that. It was just something terrible was going to happen. So much so that I turned around and drove back home, and I started having a major panic attack. Bawling, crying, shaking, feeling hot, can't breathe, tightness in my chest. So, all of that. And I've never ever had any history of panic attacks or anxiety or anything like that before. This just happened out of nowhere. um and it was from that day on, from that day in November, up until, I want to say, maybe a year ago. I got diagnosed with anxiety, major anxiety, depression, and agoraphobia, which is a type of anxiety. Excuse me. For those who don't know, agoraphobia is kind of like the fear of being outside or being in public spaces, being around people. It was really bad, to the point where I couldn't leave my house. It got to a point where I couldn't leave my room. Um, just going outside of those four walls was something that was crippling for me. It caused a lot of anxiety, a lot of those physiological kind of symptoms of not being able to breathe and stuff like that. You know, it was really bad. And because of that, because of me not being able to go outside, obviously I was terminated, from my job. Um, Seeing therapists. I was on medication for a while. And it took a terrible toll on me, but it really took a toll on my family, as well. My wife, my daughter, that have to, see this, and see me struggle with these things. It was hard. It was very hard. Um, and even to this day, there are some days where I struggle. Um, you know, where maybe something that someone might, take for granted or not think twice about. It's something that I really have to like prepare myself for ahead of time. If I, want to go to a store or take a drive somewhere, I need to take extra preparation, sometimes just so that I could mentally be in a space where I'm able to do that, you know. So yeah, man, it was really, really something that was real crippling. But God, I mean, I just give him all the glory and honor and praise, um, you know, for and through everything. It was in that season, um, that I was able to cultivate like different skills within, the music space. Like I said, I started doing the producing and engineering, um, around the time that I started making music for the kingdom, for Christ. And I wouldn't have started making music for him if I wasn't in this season. It happened simultaneously. That was the moment where I started making music again. I started making music when I was 12 years old. But when I was around, I want to say 27, 28, I stopped making music. I wasn't getting fulfillment from it anymore. I wasn't where I thought I should be, I guess, and I just didn't really see any benefit from it, you know. And I was starting a family at the time. I was living with my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but I was with her. We were just gonna have a baby, so I was like, I need to do something that's gonna take care of my family. And doing music was taking up a lot of time, and I wasn't getting anything, I guess, in return that could help, provide for my family. So I had stopped making music for about 10 years before, this season of my life. And it just so happened like all of this came about all at the same time, you know. It was just amazing, to see.
So what was your breaking point? So that was 2019. Everybody went into quarantine spring of 2020, right?
Hmm.
And so your situation in particular, a world pandemic happens at the same time. Meanwhile, you're growing all these new skills. So that's a lot for anybody. Like just the pandemic itself just, messed with normal people. Did that make things worse for you? Easier for you? Because everybody was on lockdown as well. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's almost like I didn't realize. I mean, I knew there was a pandemic there and I knew people were like kind of quarantined, but I was quarantined for a different reason,
Right.
if that makes sense, and I don't see that as a coincidence. I don't think God had me in that season at that time as a coincidence at all. Like I said, in November 2019, we didn't really know there was going to be a pandemic coming. I think we might have heard something happen in China at some point, but we didn't know what was happening. Nothing had hit the United States yet. But still, I had like this feeling, and I always look back at it, back then at that feeling when something terrible is gonna happen, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. You know what I mean? And I didn't have a feeling of it. And like it's like right the next year is like there's this pandemic and there's a quarantine and all this stuff happening. So did it make it easier or harder? I want to say I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like it just kind of like I would have been quarantined anyway if there wasn't a pandemic. Um, just with how everything was coming about with me in that season. Um, but I mean, it definitely fed, I guess, the anxious thoughts and feelings, for sure. Um, but the fact that everybody was being told to stay inside, I was like, okay, that's fine with me. I'm staying inside anyway.
Join the party.
Yeah, right.
Not so great party.
Right.
So was there what was that? Because I feel like whenever we're in these very dark seasons, there's always like a breaking point. There's always like, I've had enough point. There is a God make this stop point. Can you talk to us about what that point was like for you?
Oh yeah. So I had those moments in small kind of increments where I did like a lot of like I said, I went through therapy, so I've done like a lot of like exposure therapy little by little, and I took like these little steps. So one of those little steps was taking my daughter to school every morning because there was no one else that could do it. For me, I was thankful that her school was right across the street, like literally right across the street from where we live. So taking her to school, and that's like second, third, fourth, fifth grade, like that age range back then anyway. um you know uh it's something that was necessary, like someone needed to take. It's not like she could go by herself, at that age. um so it was being able to just leave at the very last second to take her so she's on time, just to run right back, home, and then kind of getting used to that. And then I just noticed as time went on that got a little bit easier, you know. And so the same thing happened with, other things. I went from just taking her to school to like taking a walk around the block, once, and just, continuing to do that little by little. So I started doing little things like that. I still wasn't able to drive anywhere. I still part of what I was going through was things like this, like even doing meetings or video calls or even calls on the phone was something I did not do at all. I couldn't do it. It was a trigger of mine to do Zoom calls or anything like that. Um, so then it was like starting to do that. We're having calls like this, but maybe just the camera off. Like trying to find little ways to where I could um, ease my way into being, I guess, a sense of normal, if you want to use that word. Um, but so then it was like little by little, things like that. And even now, there are some things that I still have to do that with. A real big trigger of mine was um, spending time with immediate family. So like I have my grandparents that live upstairs from me that I used to live with them, you know. And there was a time for those 5-year period that I didn't see them at all. And there's even now where I will go up to see them, and there's like a limit where it's like, okay, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. I need to excuse myself, So I'm still even going through that transition with family. Um, but there was a real big major turning point to where I was like, okay, I like within from one day to the next, I started driving, I started seeing people, I started being around people. And what happened was I live in New York. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, actually performing. I was doing a show out there. And my wife was actually with me in Florida the week before for Flavor Fest. And after Flavor Fest, I went up to Jacksonville and she came back home with my daughter because my daughter had to go to school and she had to work. While I was in Jacksonville, I get a phone call and I find out that my wife was crossing the street and she got hit by a car. Yeah. And I got that phone call that she got hit by a car. She's in the hospital. And it was in that moment, I was not that everything, like I was okay, but nothing else mattered. Like everything else was like, just didn't matter. I got on the next flight home. As soon as I got there, got my car, went to the hospital, like I haven't been in a hospital at that point in forever. I haven't, been around her family in forever, but it was instantly I was able to do that because nothing else mattered but her and that she was okay and that I was there for her, you know. Um and this happened a few months ago. This happened in November. When Flavor Fest was in November. Um, and yeah, I mean, since then it's been a real turnaround. Like when I was going through my season, my wife was the one driving everywhere, taking everybody to appointments, just taking care of all the errands. Because I couldn't. After she got into her accident, it was completely turned around. I'm doing because I needed to be there, and I needed to step up, and that's all that mattered, at that point. So, and it's all I mean, I found my strength in God, every single day, every single moment, and even still now, like I said, this was very, very recent. This was just a few months ago.
That's wild. Because I know
Yeah.
that I asked you to collaborate with us on Love Like This, which
Hmm.
you released in February. And I was watching like one of the like behind the scenes, like while you're shooting, and I don't know if it was like a third cameraman or I was watching B-roll of some kind. But I was like, okay, so he's okay. So how did this come about? Like knowing part of your story, not knowing all of it.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't realize how recent it was. That's wild.
Yeah.
So it was just okay. So that was your turning point. It was the fact that your wife needed you essentially, your family needed you, and
Hmm.
God kind of like bolsters you up to kind of like flip the switch.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was the major turning point. Absolutely. And I feel like all the little incremental turning points that I had in the past uh was just kind of leading up to that, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you
so
know,
go ahead. Sorry.
well, no, I was just gonna say, just like me being in Florida at that point, was like a really big step, for me. I think that might have been that was the second time I've gotten on a plane, you know, uh, since this whole thing came about. Um, and it was just like a really, really big step, for me in that moment. Um, so that in itself was crazy. But then to, have this happen and then everything else that followed after that, it's just it's just incredible. Like it's only by God's grace and his strength that I was able to, do any of that.
So talk to us about therapy. So you were going through therapy. I feel like three things were happening simultaneously for you. You were going through therapy. You were building a brand new relationship with God, which you really didn't have before, and you're also rebuilding your musical skills. So can
Mhm.
you talk to us how all of those things came together to kind of get you through the season?
Yeah. So therapy I think and still is, it's a great outlet just to kind of like talk things through, get a perspective from the outside. Um, being able to talk through my day or my emotions and what I'm feeling, and kind of getting someone there to kind of like challenge you back as far as like, well, how can we, um, how can you like better prepare for that next time? Or what do you think would have been a better solution for this? And just getting my mind into that, you know, practical problem solving kind of thing, I think that's really, really good because I think, talking to someone closer like my wife or anyone in my family, they're really, really good at coming from an emotional standpoint, to where when you're speaking to someone from the outside, they could look at things, more of on a logical standpoint, and then kind of like make you challenge yourself that way. So I thought that was great, and that helped me, just kind of find a balance, between the two. Um, yeah, and as far as with my relationship with God, I mean, if that's one of the things that I learned to ask is not why is this happening to me, like why are you um or why are you allowing this to happen to me, what did I do, kind of thing, but more I started switching the perspective and asking the question, okay, what do you want me to learn from this season now? I'm here for a reason, and I know you have me here for a reason, so what is it that you want me to learn? What is it you're trying to prepare me for? And looking back now, I really, really, really dug into the word, like so much, and so much studying, so much research, um, because like I wasn't going anywhere, and I just, I just really dove in, and dug in. And the reason why I dug in so much was because of what I spoke about earlier, how my mom was a Jehovah's Witness. I was able to minister to her, and I studied, you know, I forget what they call it, the version of the Bible that
Like
they
a
have.
tower, some tower.
Yeah, that's the
That's a
tract,
magazine.
that's the magazine, but the Bible that they have, I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
But I studied that, and I studied, the scripture, and I was able to present that to her, both of them, in a way where uh, the Holy Spirit spoke to her and opened her eyes, and now she's a Christian, you
that's
know.
beautiful. That's
And it's,
amazing.
again, this happened because of this season that I was in. If I didn't go through this season, that wouldn't have happened. My mother might still be a Jehovah's Witness now, you know. And man, I mean, it the season was able to produce that, but it fed into me so much as well too. Like, just because I was so hungry to learn more and to be able to say, okay, you see how, Jehovah's Witness says this is what the Bible says. Do you see that? Just to be able to do that, it made me have a relationship that was so much closer, not only to my mother, but to God and to Jesus, because I was just constantly consuming his words so much. um that it just became something that was just a part of me, where if I didn't read his word, if I didn't pray, I just felt like I was lacking, you know in that moment. So it was just, excuse me, it was just amazing. It was just such an amazing um time, and it still is. Now it came to a point where now I've developed the habit of, I can't wake up in the morning, I can't get out of bed without praying and being thankful and grateful. I wasn't doing that before, so it just totally shifted my whole uh outlook and perspective on every single day. you know
I think
so it
that's
was just really
great.
good.
That's a great perspective. Perspective is the word, because as I'm hearing your story, I'm thinking of like I get this sense that was like maybe God was keeping you, like, and I know it sounds like really dark, but having had a loss myself and having been transformed to that loss, like I feel like your story and my story kind of are similar, in that there was a great transformation that happened through that season of your life. And just like you said, you wouldn't have dug into the word had you not been in that season.
Right.
But speaking of the word and being a lamp unto our feet, was that did that season of studying, did you find that it reduced your anxiety, that it gave you more peace, or was it more of a laser focus on what it was that you were learning?
I think it's a combination of the two. It gave me more peace in the moment. So
Mm.
I've noticed, while I was doing my research and stuff, I was so laser focused on it. Um, like, almost to a fault. It was almost like a stubbornness, because I was like, no, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna show you that, this is the truth, And because I was so focused on that, God used that to give me peace, kind of peace, with that, because He knows that I'm the type of person that I really like. Like, I used to love watching videos of different theologians and just debates and stuff like that. That's just the kind of mind that I have, that I like listening to that stuff and debating and all that stuff. So just the fact that I almost had like my own little debate partner with my mom, with this stuff, it really brought me peace, because I was so focused on that I couldn't, there was no room to focus on, I guess, my circumstances that were surrounding me, as far as the anxiety and all that stuff.
Tell me the role music played, because I know I had one.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been making music since I was, 12 years old. So, very long time, 28 years. And it was only in the aspect of rapping though. I only rapped. I never, made beats. I never wanted to make beats. I never wanted to mix or master or do any of that stuff. Um, and it wasn't until this season where that came to me. And even still within the season 5 years ago, I mean, I think I was scrolling through YouTube. I don't know what I was looking at or looking for, but it had nothing to do with music. And then all of a sudden, a video popped up that shouldn't have popped up. It had no business, of like, beginner producer or how to start producing for a beginner or something like that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is what I got to do. And I don't even know why. I had no desire to do it or anything like that. Um, but once I had that desire, it was like it was just like with digging into the word and trying to, have these little debates with my mom. It was like I was that hungry for it. I was that laser focused for it. And to learn more, just to, continue to educate myself on, just the technical side of making beats and, mixing and mastering, and even the business side of music, and just, really just trying to gain all that knowledge as much as I can. And like I said, I never had this passion before at all. It wasn't a thought in my mind. And that's how I knew this was like, all right, yeah, this is what you want me to do, God. This is for you, because it wasn't a desire until this moment and this point right now, you know? So, yeah, so now one of the things that really kind of grounds me, like, or a grounding technique for me when I go outside to walk or whatever, is I'm always listening to music. And now, because I have like that, I guess, that technical ear for music now, I use the music so where I could, like, I'll try to pick out, all right, how many degrees is this pan and what instrument is that, and how much delay on that reverb is there and stuff. Like, I just try to figure things like that out to really ground me, so that I'm not, so focused on, the enemy's lies and schemes about anxiety and fear and stuff like that.
That's awesome. And so, talk to us about recovery, because I feel like with mental health, and after such a big episode like you had, and a tough season, is not just like a one and done thing, right? It's a process. Talk to us about what that process looks like for you now that you're on your road to another season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, one thing I will say is, I know there's sometimes some kind of um, debate on like whether you should go see or get therapy or see a therapist or not. Excuse me. And you know, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think God has gifted people with there's many different talents out there, and one of those is to be able to, speak to people, listen to people, be able to give advice, therapeutic advice and stuff like that. So I'm really happy and glad that I was able to get that and go through that. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to, um like I said before, navigate, I guess, the logical and practical things that I could do to try to help me to um uh, kind of navigate the anxious thoughts, or the panic attacks, or the physiological things that I was feeling. um so I think it was really, really good to do that. And that's even still things that I learned, years ago, to kind of deal with that. I still use those things today. Like something like keeping something in my pocket that I could feel, something that's textured or whatever, to kind of bring me back whenever I'm having like a episode of like fear, where I'm getting lost in my thoughts, or something like that. So it's really, really good. And just being able to hold on to those, like, now new skill sets and tools that I've learned, you know, with that has been, amazing for me. But the most important thing is just getting into my prayer closet every single day. I mean, it is every single day. It was a real struggle at first, because it was it's a habit that I had to exercise and get used to. But as I said before, it's something that I could tell if I don't do it. Like I could like literally, I could feel myself just lacking, you know. So man, yeah. So definitely prayer, fasting, and prayer. You know, really denying yourself and then supplementing whatever you're denying with God. It really shows you that God is enough and God is all that you need and He is sufficient. You know, and that just spills into every other aspect of my life. So where I know that God is sufficient. I don't need to be scared of this. I have God and He's with me. He doesn't leave me. He doesn't forsake me. You know. So in my road to recovery, that's been it. And then, you know, just the support of my family, my wife, my daughter, they've been there every single step of the way. I can't praise them or honor them enough, you know. And my mom too. I mean, they all just been instrumental in my road to recovery. So having that support system is really, really important. And I'm just grateful and blessed that I was able to have that.
Well, I appreciate you so much, and like I don't always have like a constant state of anxiety, but I do have anxious episodes. So that whole keeping something in my pocket, so that's new for me, and then the whole grounding thing with music. So when I first came into CSH, I was in a very terrible season. And I was alone. My husband's an active duty Marine, and so he was just gone like all summer. And we had just moved to this coast, and then we got a new house and the dog and the kids, and it was me with the two kids, and it was insane. And CHH pretty
Wow.
much like switched my mental flip, you know. I went from like an angry mom and just exasperated to just like being able to breathe, right? Because I was getting
Yeah.
poured into me through the music, but listening
Amen.
specifically to the beats as a form of grounding, I think it's awesome because some of like our brothers and sisters in Christ make such wonderful music, and I
Yeah.
could think of a few to add to my playlist. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for sharing your journey and your testimony. So for people who want to check out your music, where can we find it?
Oh yeah. So everywhere, like it's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, anywhere you could think of. Purelyricz, lyrics with a Z at the end. You know, that's my name on social media. It's official Purelyricz. So yeah, you can find it anywhere. At the time of this recording, I'll be having when you guys do hear this, I'll have a EP that has dropped called Next Chapter, and that's the title of that is Next Chapter because it's the songs that are on there are actually talking about me coming out of this season that I just spoke about with you know, this anxiety and depression and agoraphobia and all that stuff. So if you get a chance, if you haven't already, take a listen. I hope it's you know, edifying for you as it has been for me, and it ministers to whoever needs it.
All right, you heard it here. Check that out, and thank you so much again for being with us.